circumstances or unforeseen changing direction. So in this talk, first I'll talk about what happened, backstory. At the San Jose retreat 2 years ago, I won seed funding for my idea. And so first I'll talk about what that idea was and what I think won the judges over. Then I'll talk about how I built that app. And finally I'll talk about the results and what I think the NSNA should do in that same vein going forward. Okay. So the original concept was I'd been reading a lot about Vedic math, which is mathematical techniques hidden in the Indian equivalent of the Bible. So there, in addition to, of course, how to conduct pujas and astronomy, there's also a lot of mathematical techniques. So what I found was whenever I gave a speech about it in a high school forensics competition, and people asked me, how can I learn these techniques? And there was nothing good I could point them to, so I decided to make it myself. So I came to the NSNA with this idea of a temple run type game where you're also learning ancient Indian math, and I hadn't quite fleshed it out. So once I won the seed funding money and I had started designing it, I realized that that's not possible. So what ended up being created, and which you can all download as an app called Math Sages in the iOS App Store, is a series of lessons which utilize principles of gamification, but not an interactive game like Temple Run. Cool. So first, a quick note, what I think won the judges over was the idea of Vedic math, which people hadn't really thought about before, and not so much how I was kind of fitting it into an application. So keeping that in mind, that's how I went into this wireframing process. And so I spent about 1.5 years trying different things, different software, different ideas to create this app in a tangible format so I could give it to a developer because I don't know how to code. So it ended up with a lot of hair pulling. It was a very frustrating process. But at the end, I had about 150 little pictures of each individual screen of the app, and that's what I ended up giving to the developer. So one thing that helped me get out of that sort of rut that I was in for a 1.5 years was this lean startup philosophy. And I know a lot of people have probably heard of it by now, but just the idea of failing quickly, which Sivagami also mentioned, was really crucial to me. So instead of obsessing and being a perfectionist, I just tried to create something that could go out as quickly as possible. So just a few specifics. At the seed funding competition, I won $7,500, and actually $5,000 of those dollars went to the development. And I like to tell the story, like my pataya, who put water in ball to make it last longer, I spent only $200 on the graphic design, which should have been about a $5,000 job, because I went with the person who had never designed anything before, but who had artistic talent. So the designs came out beautiful, but instead of taking 2 weeks, it took 2 months. So that's one lesson I learned. Maybe go with experience over potential artistic talent if what you're looking for is time, right? But also, in another respect, giving this person a chance to create some graphics also helped her move forward with her graphic design career. So this is outsourcing. My recommendation is don't outsource if you can avoid it. I didn't have the opportunity to learn how to code, and I'm working on it right now. But if I had known how to code, I could have done this much cheaper. It would have costed about $200 overall, and I wouldn't have even needed the seed funding money. So that's just a very practical lesson, right? Learn how to code. It's really useful if you want to create something quickly. Cool. So once I'd finished this whole process, I had a really solid product I was really proud of, and it was on the App Store, but no one was downloading it. So that's how I came to this whole concept of marketing. And so I tried a lot of different things, but what I found was this book called Growth Hacker Marketing. And what really propelled me forward out of the rut I found myself in again with marketing was create a presence somewhere, usually online, and then find people who are really interested in that, who will come to your product and tell other people about it. So that's kind of the vision I had, and that's what I pursued. So with the results of the app, I'll start first with the bad news, which is that I made $0 Many people download, a couple hundred people download the app, but nobody bought the freemium purchase, which was the business model of the app. So what I found, instead of, I had a really detailed plan of how I'd use all the profits in my business plan, but instead I had 0 profits. So what I ended up learning from this was, it's not just money that you can give back to the community. There are other things that you can do. So all these things I learned, trying different things, failing, and developing this app, I ended up doing a couple things. First, it enabled a company in Silicon Valley called Crowdpack to hire me. They were really reluctant to hire a high schooler, but I said, hey, look, I made this thing, you should hire me. And they were like, okay, we'll give you a chance. That's where I'm working right now. Also, at a different level, I was able to use my experience as an executive sort of steering an idea through a course to help a couple local startups in DC, like Mark, which is a philanthropy startup, which I'm really excited about. And so what they're trying to do is make philanthropy a sort of daily habit, so I've been helping them a lot with that. And then also the last picture there is TAIA, which is the Tamil American Youth Association, and I've been helping them sort of find a niche, and they've been working with FETNA to create sort of a youth portion of FETNA. So having been really enmeshed in the NSNA seed funding program and in the very first trial in San Jose, here's my opinion. It's merely a recommendation, but as a person who was enmeshed in the process for 2 years, this is what I think should be done going forward. And the first is, just to be clear, the money wasn't the most important part of this, the most helpful part of this from the NSNA to me. What was really useful was the people that I was able to connect with and the other things that I'm looking here. So first is to create a culture of risk takers. As you know, the other speakers have mentioned, Nagarthas have started as risk takers, but in recent years we've moved towards more risk-free paths. The things that I hear uncles and aunties often praising are being a doctor, being an engineer, being a lawyer. And although those positions are great, they're very risk-free. And so what I've learned and what my dad has always told me is that with little risk comes relatively little reward, but with a lot of risk comes the potential for a huge reward. So what I think should be done practically to advance that idea of creating a culture of risk takers among this community is to have a social safety net. The financial safety net isn't as much of a problem, but just the social stigma of failing is often perceived as negative, but in fact, it should be perceived as positive, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for going around or over the obstacle that you encounter. So if we take a conscious effort to praise not just the risk-free occupations, but also the risky occupations such as entrepreneurship among our youth, I think that would be a great step forward in creating this culture of risk takers. The second is investing in people and not ideas. So what the app that was ultimately created was very different from what was initially proposed 2 years ago. But what did pay off, I think, was the investment in the entrepreneur. And so the seed funding contest, although it may not have created the next Instagram, the next Facebook, and that no billion-dollar product, it did create a person who I think is a lifelong charitable entrepreneur. And so I think this idea of investing in people and mentoring people is really crucial. And that goes into the final point, which is emphasizing mentorship and not money. So through this seed funding contest, in addition to the $7,500, I was also extremely lucky to benefit from the help of a lot of experienced entrepreneurs in this community. And so I talked with them, I bounced my ideas off of them, and that was really helpful in getting my idea off the ground and ultimately having something that everybody can download. And so what I think should be done going forward is not just focusing on the most successful entrepreneurs. All of the people who helped me were very, very successful. What that also meant was they were also very hard to reach. When I tried to reach for a quick question, I'm traveling. I'm in Singapore today, I'm in India tomorrow, I'm in the UK the next day. It was hard to reach these people, so I think what should be done is focusing not just on the most successful entrepreneurs, but people who have just started, people who have done something, and people who are trying to start, people who haven't created anything, haven't pushed anything out yet, but are looking to do so. And by connecting those people with different skills, bounce off of each other, and they're able to expand their network and use each other's complementary skill sets to create something that not only is really cool to use, really cool to see in action, but also will ultimately come back around and give back to our great community. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand, Sivagami, Muthu and Raja. It was great to hear all of your experiences and the lessons you all learned. I hope you all enjoyed this forum, and thanks again for being here.